Bro, I think your life is being streamed online. At first, I thought it was spam. I almost ignored it. But then another message came in. I'm serious. Your girlfriend runs a private stream. Then a screenshot. It was blurry, low quality, dark room. But I recognized the couch immediately, because it was my couch. And sitting on it was me, sleeping. I stared at the image for almost a full minute before my brain even started processing it. The timestamp in the corner of the screenshot was from 40 minutes ago. I looked across the room. The couch was empty now, bathed in the pale, sickly light of the street lamp outside. But in the photo, I was there, slumped over a pillow, my mouth slightly open. I felt a surge of nausea so violent I had to steady myself against the nightstand. My heart wasn't just beating. It was thudding against my ribs like a fist on a locked door. I turned my head slowly toward the other side of the bed. Mia was asleep, or she looked like it. Her breathing was rhythmic, her face peaceful, framed by her blonde hair. She looked like the woman I'd shared my life with for 3 years, the woman I'd planned to propose to in July. I looked back at my phone. My thumb hovered over the screen, shaking. Where? I typed. Where is this being streamed? The reply was instant. It's a gated site. You need an invite. I'm a moderator. Well, I was, until she started the intrusion arc. I'm out. This is too messed up even for the money. Then, a link. I didn't want to click it. Every instinct in my body told me to throw the phone across the room, to wake Mia up and demand an explanation. But a darker, colder part of me, the part that had noticed the small inconsistencies over the last few months, knew I needed to see it for myself. I clicked. The site was called The Veneer. The page was black, minimalist. No ads, no pop-ups, just a login prompt. Before I could even think of a password, the screen shifted. The anonymous sender must have given me a direct backdoor access. The video loaded. It was a wide-angle shot of our bedroom, my bedroom, right now. The camera was positioned high up in the corner, hidden inside the smoke detector. The resolution was staggering. It wasn't the blurry mess of the screenshot, it was crisp, 4K, night vision enabled. I saw myself sitting on the edge of the bed. I saw the glow of my phone illuminating my terrified face. And then, I saw the chat on the right side of the screen. User _99. Oh, look, subject A is awake. Did someone tip him off? Admin _V. Impossible. The firewall is solid. He's probably just having a nightmare. Stay tuned. Paypig _alpha. I bet 2.0 ETH. He checks the smoke detector in the next 5 minutes. Mia _official. Don't worry guys, he's a slow learner. I'll handle him if he gets twitchy. My blood turned to ice. Mia hadn't moved. She was still lying there, her back to me. But on the screen, a new message appeared from her account. Mia _official. She was typing. Right now, under the covers. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I watched the screen of my phone as the girl lying 6 inches away from me sent another message to 10,000 strangers. Mia _official. He's looking at his phone. This wasn't in the script for tonight. Should I initiate the gaslight sequence or go straight to night terror? The chat erupted. A flood of digital currency icons filled the screen. The goal bar at the top, labeled $50,000, total breakdown, shot up by a quarter. I slowly turned my eyes away from the phone and toward Mia's hand under the duvet. There was a faint, almost invisible rhythmic movement, her thumb, moving against a screen hidden beneath the fabric. She wasn't sleeping. She was working. I realized then that our entire relationship hadn't just been a lie. It had been a production. The time she accidentally dropped the birthday cake and cried, plus 15,000 viewers. The time we had that massive fight about my mother, sponsored by a crypto whale. The time we spent all weekend in bed because we were so in love. A tiered subscription event. Every intimate word, every I love you, every shared secret had been harvested. I felt a cold, hard clarity settle over me. I wasn't her boyfriend. I was her subject A. I was the unsuspecting animal in a digital zoo, and she was the keeper who fed me just enough affection to keep the show going. I looked up at the smoke detector. I knew I should rip it down. I should scream. I should run. But then I saw a new message in the chat. Admin _V. Wait, subject A is looking directly at camera 1. Is he smiling? I wasn't smiling, not yet. But I realized that if I was a character in her show, then I had the power to ruin her ratings. I leaned down, my face inches from Mia's ear. She didn't flinch. She was a professional. She stayed in character. I know, I whispered. The chat on my phone went into a frenzy. The numbers were spinning so fast I couldn't read them. Paypig_alpha. Holy shit, he knows. Is this scripted? User_77. If this is real, this is the best content on the site. Mia's breathing hitched, just for a second. The rhythmic movement under the duvet stopped. I know about the veneer, I whispered, my voice as cold as a grave. And I know how much they're paying you. Mia didn't move. She didn't turn around. Instead, her voice came out low, sharp, and utterly devoid of the warmth I'd known for years. Don't ruin this, Elias, she said, still staring at the wall. Do you have any idea how much debt we're in? Do you have any idea what they do to people who break the contract? I don't care, I said. You should, she whispered, because the intrusion arc wasn't a joke. The guy who broke in last week? He wasn't an actor. He was a gold-tier subscriber who paid for the privilege. And right now, there are 3 more outside the door. I froze. I looked at the live feed on my phone. The camera angle shifted. It wasn't the bedroom anymore, it was a feed from the doorbell camera. 3 men were standing in the hallway of our apartment building. They were wearing expensive suits and silicone masks that looked like distorted, smiling human faces. One of them held a crowbar. Another held a professional-grade camera. The third held a tablet. On my phone, a notification popped up from the veneer. Mia finally turned around. She wasn't crying. She looked bored. She held her phone out, the screen glowing with the faces of the 3 men outside. Into the smoke detector with a practiced, cinematic gaze. And the audience hates a cliffhanger. I looked at the door. I heard the faint sound of a keycard scratching against the lock. The subscribers weren't just watching anymore. They were coming in. I stood up. I didn't have a weapon. I didn't have a plan. But I looked at the smoke detector, and for the first time, I spoke directly to the 10,000 people watching me. I hope you got your money's worth, I said. I walked to the kitchen and grabbed the heavy cast iron skillet from the stove. The front door clicked open. The blue light from the hallway spilled into the darkened apartment, casting long, distorted shadows of the 3 men in masks. Welcome to the show, I whispered. And then, I turned off the lights. If they wanted horror, I was going to give them something so real it would haunt their servers for eternity. I wasn't a subject anymore. I was the director. The silence in the apartment was deafening, broken only by the rhythmic thrum of the heavy-duty server Mia had hidden behind the drywall. I stood in the kitchen, the weight of the cast iron skillet cold and grounding in my hand. I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't a fighter. I was a man who spent his days staring at spreadsheets, but as the door creaked open, the adrenaline didn't just hit me, it rewrote me. The first man stepped inside. He was tall, his suit tailored to a razor's edge. The silicone mask he wore was a hyper-realistic caricature of a middle-aged man with a permanent, unsettling grin. He didn't look like a killer. He looked like a CEO who had bought a new toy. He held a professional DSLR camera in one hand, the lens pointed straight at my heart. In the other, he gripped a heavy tactical flashlight. Subject A, he said. His voice was muffled by the mask, but it carried a terrifyingly casual tone. The chat said you were armed. Good. Conflict is the soul of the narrative. Behind him, the other 2 filed in. One was smaller, jittery, holding a tablet and a pair of heavy-duty zip ties. The third, the one with the crowbar, stayed by the door, acting as a sentry. I looked past them at Mia. She was still sitting on the bed, her legs tucked under her. She wasn't cowering. She was adjusting the ring light on her nightstand to ensure the shadows in the hallway looked moody for the stream. Mia, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Tell them to leave. Tell them the show is over. She didn't even look at me. She looked at the camera the suit-wearing man was holding. Don't mind him. Gold-member_1. She purred, her voice hitting that practiced melodic pitch she used for her followers. He's just struggling with the realization that he's a supporting character. Make sure you get his left side. It's his angry side. The man in the suit chuckled. He clicked a button on his camera, and a blinding strobe light began to flash. Flash, flash, flash. It was a disorientation tactic. Every time the light hit my eyes, the world turned into a jagged mess of white spots and black shadows. The subscribers voted for a physical correction, the man said, stepping closer. They think you've been too complacent, Elias. They want to see you fight for your position in this house. He lunged. He didn't swing a fist. He swung the heavy flashlight, aimed at my temple. I ducked. Not because I was fast, but because I slipped on a rug I'd been meaning to fix for months. The flashlight whistled over my head, smashing into a ceramic vase on the counter. Shards of porcelain exploded like shrapnel. I swung back. The skillet hit him square in the ribs. The sound was a dull, wet thwack. It was the sound of bone meeting iron. The man gasped, his smiling mask slipping as he doubled over. On my phone, which was still vibrating on the counter, the chat went nuclear. User_X, holy shit, subject A landed a hit. Veneer_admin, multiplier active, $10,000 bonus if someone draws blood in the next 60 seconds. The man with the crowbar didn't wait for his signal. He moved with a brutal, practiced efficiency. He didn't care about the camera angle. He wanted the bonus. He swung the iron bar down toward my shoulder. I rolled across the kitchen floor, my heart hammering so hard I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. The crowbar dented the linoleum where my head had been a second before. "Stop it!" I yelled, scrambling to my feet behind the kitchen island. "This is real. You're going to kill someone." The smaller man with the tablet laughed. It was a high-pitched wheezing sound. "That's the point, Elias. High stakes, high rewards. Do you know how many people are watching this? You're a star." I looked at Mia. She was holding her phone up now, filming the scene from the bedroom doorway. She was smiling. A real, genuine smile. The kind I hadn't seen in years. She was finally getting the numbers she wanted. "Mia, help me." "Give them a show, Elias," she whispered. "If you win, we can pay off the mortgage. We can be free." It was a lie. I knew it was a lie. There was no free in the veneer. There was only the next episode, the next escalation. The man in the suit stood up, clutching his side. His mask was cracked. Underneath, I saw a glimpse of a face, ordinary, pale, sweating. He looked like any guy you'd pass on the street. That was the real horror. He wasn't a monster. He was a customer. "Enough," the suit said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a taser. The prongs hissed with blue electricity. The audience is tired of the dancing. They want the subdue and humiliate segment. I realized then that I couldn't win a fair fight. There were 3 of them, and they had the backing of 1 million voyeurs. But I knew this apartment better than they did. And I knew the one thing they couldn't control, the infrastructure. I didn't swing the skillet again. Instead, I grabbed the heavy glass jar of cooking oil from the shelf and smashed it on the floor between me and them. Then I grabbed the bottle of high-proof bourbon from the counter. "What are you doing?" Mia's voice lost its cinematic edge. She sounded confused. "I'm canceling the show," I said. I flicked the burner on the gas stove. "Elias, don't!" Mia stepped forward, her phone dropping slightly. "The equipment! The server is in the wall." "Exactly," I said. I threw the bourbon onto the oiled floor. The blue flame from the stove caught the vapors instantly. A wall of fire roared up, separating me from the men in masks. The smoke detector, the one with the camera, immediately began to wail. A high-pitched, piercing shriek that filled the apartment. "The feed!" the man with the tablet screamed. "The smoke is obscuring the lens. The bitrate is dropping." The suit-wearing man tried to push through the flames, but the heat was too much. He backed away, shielding his expensive camera. He cared more about the lens than his own life. I didn't wait. I ran to the bedroom. Mia was standing there, frozen. The room was filling with thick black smoke. The aesthetic was gone. The vibe was dead. "Get out! The stream is still live. We're at 12 million. She tried to pull away, her eyes fixed on the numbers on her screen. "Elias, this is it! This is the peak!" "It's a fire, Mia. The whole place is going up." I dragged her toward the fire escape in the bedroom. Behind us, I could hear the men coughing, cursing, trying to find a way around the flames. They weren't gold-tier hunters anymore. They were just men trapped in a burning kitchen. I kicked the window open. The cold night air rushed in, feeding the fire. The flames doubled in size, licking at the ceiling. I pushed Mia onto the metal grating of the fire escape. She was still holding her phone. Even as she climbed down, she was trying to keep the camera pointed at the burning room. "Look at the comments," she hissed, her voice ecstatic. "They love the fire. They're calling it the ultimate sacrifice." I looked back into the room one last time. The server behind the wall began to pop and hiss. The blue light that had permeated our lives for months began to flicker and die. The obsidian spheres in the corners, the ones I now realized were just high-end, custom-built sensors, melted and dripped like black tears down the wallpaper. The man in the suit appeared in the bedroom doorway. His clothes were singed. His mask was gone. He looked at me, and for a second I saw the emptiness in his eyes. "You ruined it," he whispered. "The ending. It was supposed to be poetic." "Go to hell," I said. I slammed the window shut and locked it from the outside. We scrambled down the ladder to the alleyway below. My lungs burned. My skin was soot-stained. As we hit the pavement, Mia stumbled. She dropped her phone. The screen cracked. She lunged for it, her fingers scraping against the asphalt. She picked it up, her face desperate. "It's dark," she sobbed. "The connection. It's gone. Elias, it's gone." I looked at her. She wasn't looking at the fire. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at a dead piece of glass. "We're alive, Mia," I said, reaching out to her. She pulled away, looking at me with a hatred so deep it made the fire feel cold. "You killed it," she whispered. "We were stars. Now we're just nobody." I heard sirens in the distance. The fire was roaring now, blowing out the windows of our third-floor sanctuary. I looked up and saw the silhouettes of the three men standing on the fire escape, watching us. They weren't chasing us anymore. They were just watching. Then my own phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't want to look. I knew I shouldn't. But I pulled it out. One new message from the anonymous account. Season 1 concluded. Great finale, bro. Truly authentic. And then, a new link. Check out the Season 2 teaser. They're already casting. I opened the link. It was a live stream of the alleyway where we were standing. The camera was high up, probably on the building across the street. The title of the stream, The Survivors, Nobody is Ever Really Alone. The viewer count was already at 50,000. I looked at Mia. She had seen it too. She stopped crying. She wiped the soot from her face, she straightened her hair. Then, she looked directly at the hidden camera across the street and smiled. "Don't worry, guys," she whispered, her voice returning to that perfect melodic pitch. "The show must go on." I backed away into the shadows of the alley, but I knew it didn't matter. There were no shadows anymore. Not in this city. 6. The aftermath of the flame. The fire department called it an electrical fault. They stood there with their heavy hoses and yellow jackets, soaking the charred remains of our life, never realizing they were standing on a graveyard of secrets. Mia and I were sitting on the bumper of an ambulance. The paramedics had draped us in those crinkly, silver thermal blankets. To anyone passing by, we were just a tragedy. A young couple who had lost everything. But we hadn't lost everything. Mia's phone was dead, shattered on the asphalt, but she was holding it like a holy relic. Her eyes weren't on the fire. They were scanning the crowd. She was looking for the lenses. She knew they were there. Somewhere in the sea of onlookers beneath the hoodies and behind the car windshields, the scouts were filming. "We need to go to a hotel," she whispered. Her voice was flat, devoid of the shock I was feeling. "A hotel? Mia, we have no clothes, no IDs, nothing. We need to call the police. Those men, they tried to kill me." Mia turned to me. The soot on her face made her eyes look unnaturally bright, like two glowing coins. "The police? You think they aren't subscribed? Elias, don't be naive. The veneer doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's the infrastructure now." She was right. As I looked around, I saw a teenager a few yards away holding up his phone. He wasn't filming the fire, he was filming us. He saw my gaze and didn't look away. He just tapped his screen, sending a like. Or maybe a tip. My phone buzzed again. The anonymous sender. "Hotel Miramar, room 402. The key is under the mat. The audience paid for the refuge arc. Don't be late. They hate dead air." I felt a cold, oily dread slide down my throat. We weren't escaping. We were just moving to a new set. "I'm not going, Mia," I said, standing up. The silver blanket fell from my shoulders like shed skin. "I'm walking away, right now. I'll go to another city. I'll change my name." Mia laughed. It was a jagged, ugly sound. "Go ahead, walk. See how far you get before the bounty is posted. You're the most popular character on the platform right now, Elias. You're the reluctant hero. If you leave the script, they'll turn it into a manhunt. Is that what you want? To be hunted for sport by 5 million people with GPS trackers?" 7. Room 402. The Hotel Miramar was a crumbling Art Deco building on the edge of the docks. It smelled of salt, mildew, and old cigarettes. It was the perfect setting for a noir chapter. The key was exactly where the message said it would be. When we entered room 402, I didn't even bother looking for the cameras. I knew they were there. I could almost hear the low-frequency hum of the high-speed uplink. The room was furnished with a single bed, a flickering neon sign outside the window that bathed everything in a rhythmic pulse of pink and blue, and a brand new laptop sitting on the desk. Mia went straight for the laptop. She opened it, and the light hit her face like a drug. I watched her reflection in the dark window. She was scrolling through the stats from the fire. 22 million, she breathed. Elias. The house fire finale broke the site record. We're Obsidian tier now. We have unlimited credit. Credit for what? I snapped. For a life we can't live? For a bed we can't sleep in without being watched? For protection, she screamed, spinning around. The men in the masks, they didn't come to kill us. They came to test us, and you passed? The subscribers love your dark side. They've opened a new betting pool on whether you'll eventually turn on me. I sat on the edge of the bed, burying my face in my hands. The realization hit me. There was no off switch. The world had become a giant interconnected lens. Every person on the street was a potential camera. Every hotel room a potential stage. Look at this, Mia said, her tone suddenly soft, almost seductive. I looked up. She was pointing at the screen. It was a live map of the city. There were thousands of little blue dots moving through the streets. What is that? The extras, she whispered. People who have signed up to be part of our story. If we need a distraction, we click a button, and they create one. If we need a car, one pulls up. We aren't just characters anymore. Elias. We're directors of the reality around us. And the price? I asked. She looked at the screen, and for a second her mask slipped. The price is that we can never ever be alone. Even when we're sleeping, even when we're dying. The feed must stay live. 8. The parasite of privacy. That night, the refuge arc took a psychological turn. The chat was demanding intimacy. They were bored of the fire and the fighting. They wanted vulnerability. Mia began to undress. She did it slowly, with a calculated grace that made my stomach turn. She wasn't doing it for me. She was doing it for the paypig_alpha and the admin_V. Stop it, Mia, I whispered. Interact with me, Elias, she hissed back, her eyes fixed on the tiny lens hidden in the smoke-stained mirror. The engagement is dropping. If we hit the sub goal, they'll send us a care package. Clean clothes, real food, maybe even some medicine for your arm. I looked at my arm. The burn from the kitchen fire was blistering, a raw red map of pain. I realized the trap had tightened. They were withholding basic human needs unless we performed. This wasn't just horror. It was a Skinner box designed for the digital age. I'm not doing it, I said. I went to the corner of the room, the only place where the neon light didn't reach. The chat on the laptop screen began to scroll with insults. User_88. Subject A is being a bitch again. Admin_V. Initiate environmental discomfort, 3,000 credits. Suddenly, the air conditioning in the room kicked on. But it wasn't blowing cool air. It was a foul, sulfurous stench, the smell of rotting eggs, blasting into the small room at full power. See? Mia gasped, coughing. They're getting angry. Just kiss me, Elias. Give them 5 minutes of romance and they'll turn it off. I looked at her, my wife, the woman I had loved, and I saw a stranger. She was willing to barter her dignity for a breath of clean air. No, I said. I stood up and walked to the laptop. I didn't try to turn it off. I knew that would just trigger a penalty. Instead, I looked directly into the webcam. You want to see a breakdown? I asked the void. You want to see what happens when you push a man too far? I grabbed the heavy glass ashtray from the nightstand and smashed it against my own hand. The pain was sharp and blinding. The chat went silent for a microsecond, then exploded in a frenzy of gifs. Is that enough blood for you? I roared. Is that worth $10, $50? How much is my soul going for tonight? 9. The third player. A new message appeared on the screen. It wasn't from a subscriber. It was a system notification. New character entering the set. The antagonist. The door to room 402 didn't burst open. It was opened with a key, slowly and deliberately. A woman walked in. She was dressed in a sharp gray suit. She wasn't wearing a mask. Her face was beautiful, but it was the beauty of a shark. Utilitarian and cold. She held a tablet in her hand, and she was followed by a man holding a boom mic. Who the hell are you? I asked, clutching my bleeding hand. I'm your new script doctor, she said. She didn't look at me. She looked at Mia. Mia, darling, your performance tonight has been adequate, but Elias is the real draw. His self-harm spike just doubled our quarterly revenue. I'm not a character, I spat. Of course you are, she said, tapping her tablet. Everyone is. I'm just the one who gets paid to make sure the story makes sense. And right now, the story needs a separation arc. She looked at me with a thin, predatory smile. The subscribers have voted, Elias. They think Mia is holding you back. They want to see you go rogue. So here's the deal. You leave this room alone. You go into the city, we give you a head start of 1 hour, then the hunt begins. And if I refuse? The woman pointed her tablet at the window. The neon sign outside flickered and changed. Instead of Miramar, it now displayed a live countdown. 00:59:58. If you're still in this room when that hits 0, she said, we release the intruders again. And this time, they aren't carrying cameras, they're carrying finality tokens. I looked at Mia. I expected her to be terrified. I expected her to grab me and tell me not to go. But she was looking at the laptop. The hunt sub-goal just hit $5 million, she whispered, her voice filled with a sick, twisted pride. Elias, if you survive the night, we'll be richer than we ever dreamed. I realized then that the fire hadn't killed the Mia I knew. She had been dead for a long time. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't look back. I walked out of room 402 and into the dark, rain-slick streets of the city. The countdown was ticking in my head. I had 1 hour to disappear in a world where everyone was a spy. Current viewers, 45 million. The rain in the city didn't feel like water. It felt like liquid static, cold and clinging, blurring the edges of the neon signs that lined the waterfront. I ran. My boots slapped against the wet pavement, the sound echoing off the narrow alley walls. Every time I passed a person, a woman walking a dog, a homeless man huddled under a tarp, a teenager leaning against a lamppost, I felt their eyes. It wasn't paranoia, it was the veneer effect. I saw them tilt their heads, their phones rising in a synchronized motion, tracking my movement. I was a walking jackpot. X, the human sensor array. I had 40 minutes left. I ducked into a 24-hour laundromat, the air thick with the smell of cheap detergent and bleach. I needed to think. I sat behind a row of humming dryers, my heart drumming a frantic rhythm. I pulled out my phone, the burner I'd grabbed from the hotel desk, and checked the local map. The blue dots were converging. The extras were moving. On the screen, I could see them forming a perimeter around the 3-block radius of the Miramar. They weren't coming for me yet. They were just positioning themselves, like pixels forming an image. Suddenly, the laundromat's overhead speakers crackled. The soft jazz that had been playing cut out, replaced by the smooth, synthetic voice of the script doctor. Elias, the voice echoed through the empty room. You're hiding. Hiding is low energy. The viewers are starting to downvote. If the sentiment drops below 40%, we'll activate the pheromone tag. What the hell is a pheromone tag? I shouted at the ceiling. It means every smart lock in the city will recognize you as an intruder. It means the extras will get a notification that you're free game for the next 10 minutes. Don't be a coward, Elias. Give them the chase they paid for. I realized then that the city wasn't just a setting. It was a character. The streetlights, the speakers, the automated transit. It was all plugged into the same central nervous system. The veneer was the operating system of the world. I stood up and walked to the back of the laundromat. There was a vending machine. I stared at my reflection in the glass. I looked like a ghost. Soot-stained, bleeding, eyes wide with a manic edge. I didn't want to be a ghost, I wanted to be a glitch. I grabbed a heavy metal chair and smashed the glass of the vending machine. Not for the food, for the electronics. I ripped out the wiring, the small cellular modem that handled the payments. If I couldn't escape the network, I would have to create a noise. 11. The first hunter. I was back in the alley when I heard it. A low, rhythmic, mechanical hum. I looked up. A drone, no larger than a dinner plate, was hovering 10 feet above me. Its camera lens was glowing a soft, predatory red. It wasn't just filming, it was broadcasting a live telemetry feed of my vital signs to the subscribers. Overlay_bot. Subject, a heart rate, 145 beats per minute. Stress level, critical. Odds of survival, 12%. Go away. I threw a piece of brick at it. The drone dodged with a graceful, insect-like flick and stayed exactly 10 feet away. Then, from the shadows at the end of the alley, a man stepped out. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing tactical gear, black nylon, a GoPro strapped to his chest, and a mask that looked like a snarling wolf. He was holding a high-tension net gun. Elias Thorne, the wolf said. His voice was excited, breathless. I've been a Tier 3 subscriber since the Broken Engagement arc. I've spent $6,000 on your story. I think I deserve a souvenir. He wasn't a professional. He was a fan. A super fan who had paid for the right to participate in the finale. He fired. The net hissed through the air, expanding like a spider's web. I dove behind a dumpster, the nylon mesh snagging on the rusted metal edges. The audience wants a struggle, Elias, the wolf shouted, reloading. Don't make it easy. If you fight back, the gore multiplier kicks in. I saw a discarded iron pipe lying in the mud. I grabbed it. I didn't think about the cameras or the subscribers. I thought about Mia's cold, dead eyes in that hotel room. I thought about the life that had been stolen from me for engagement. The wolf lunged, swinging a heavy baton. I parried with the pipe, the jarring impact vibrating through my teeth. He was faster than me, fueled by the adrenaline of a man living out his darkest fantasy. He kicked me in the chest, sending me sprawling into the trash. Smile for the camera, Subject A, he laughed, standing over me, his GoPro pointed directly at my face. This is going to be the top-voted clip of the month. I didn't smile. I reached out and grabbed the drone that was hovering near his head. I didn't care about the shock it gave me. I slammed the spinning rotors directly into the wolf's neck. The plastic blades shattered, but the impact was enough. He screamed, clutching his throat as the drone's battery sparked and hissed. I didn't wait to see if he was okay. I grabbed his net gun and ran. On my phone, the chat was a blur of neon text. User_Gore. Brutal. Did you see that combo? Admin_V. Subject A has claimed a loot drop. The hunt is escalating. Activating Phase 2, the social manhunt. 12, the crowd of mirrors. The countdown hit 0. The head start was over. I burst out of the alley and onto the main boulevard. Usually, at 4 a.m., this street would be empty. But tonight, it was crawling with people. They weren't extras anymore, they were participants. They were standing on the sidewalk, sitting in their cars, leaning out of windows, thousands of them. And every single one of them was holding a phone, their screens glowing like a sea of cold, digital eyes. They didn't attack me. They just followed. When I ran, they ran. When I stopped, they stopped. They stayed exactly 20 feet away, a silent, encroaching wall of voyeurs. They were the human sensor array. As long as they could see me, the veneer knew exactly where I was. Help me, I screamed at a woman standing near a bus stop. Please, call the real police. This isn't a game. The woman didn't lower her phone. She just adjusted her grip. I can't, Elias, she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. If I stop filming, I lose my observer status. I need the points for my rent. The horror wasn't in the violence. It was in the complicity. The entire economy of the city had been tethered to the feed. These people weren't evil, they were just desperate. And I was the content that kept them afloat. I saw a black SUV scream around the corner, its tires screeching on the wet asphalt. It had veneer, stenciled in matte black on the side. The script doctor had arrived to collect her prize. The crowd parted for the SUV like the Red Sea. I was trapped. The wall of people behind me, the SUV in front of me, and the cameras everywhere. The door opened. The script doctor stepped out holding a silver briefcase. Bravo, Elias, she said, her voice amplified by the street's public address system. The hunt has generated more revenue in 1 hour than the last 3 seasons combined. You are a god of the digital age. End it, I said, gasping for air, the iron pipe still gripped in my hand. Just end it. Oh, it's ending, she said, opening the briefcase. Inside was a single, sleek black device, a Neuralink headset. The subscribers don't want to watch you anymore. They want to be you. They want to feel your fear, your pain, your heartbeat. They want the full immersion experience. She stepped toward me. Put this on, and the debt is wiped. Mia goes free. You become an eternal host. You'll live in a suite at the top of the city, pampered, fed, loved, and your every thought will be streamed to 20 million people. You'll never be alone again. You'll be the heart of the world. I looked at the headset. I looked at the thousands of glowing screens in the crowd. I looked at the drone hovering above us. And if I refuse? The script doctor sighed. Then we let the extras have their fun. And believe me, they've been betting heavily on the tragedy ending. I looked at the crowd. I saw a young girl, no older than 10, standing next to her father. Both were holding phones. Both were waiting for the climax. I realized then that there was no way out. Not through the fire, not through the city. The only way out was to destroy the feed from the inside. Okay, I whispered, I'll do it. The script doctor smiled. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. She reached out to place the headset on my brow. A wise choice, Subject A. Welcome to eternity. As the cold metal touched my skin, I didn't fight it. I leaned in. But I didn't think about the fear. I didn't think about the pain. I thought about the glitch. The neural link works by translating thoughts into data. And I was a systems architect. I knew how to create a recursive loop. I knew how to crash a server by giving it a paradox it couldn't solve. As the link synchronized with my brain, the world began to dissolve into a grid of blue light. I felt the presence of 20 million minds entering my consciousness. They were hungry. They were cold. They were screaming for more. Give us everything, they roared in my head. Okay, I thought. Here is everything. I didn't give them my memories of Mia. I didn't give them my fear. I gave them the void. I focused on the concept of absolute nothingness. I visualized a black hole, a point of zero data, a vacuum of sensory input. I poured every ounce of my will into the thought of a null signal. The neural link began to hum. Then it began to scream. The subscribers weren't just watching a black screen, they were feeling the absence of existence. The feed was trying to broadcast nothing, and the nothing was swallowing the network. "What are you doing?" the script doctor shrieked, clutching her own headset. "Stop it! You're crashing the platform. The servers are overheating." I didn't stop. I went deeper into the dark. I felt the connection shattering. I felt the 20 million minds screaming in terror as they were pulled into the same void I had created. The veneer wasn't just losing a show, it was losing its mind. Across the city, the streetlights flickered and died. The phones in the crowd turned into bricks of glass and plastic. The drones fell from the sky like dead birds. The feed was dead. I woke up on the pavement. The rain was still falling, but it was just water now. The boulevard was silent. The thousands of people were still there, but they were standing in total darkness, staring at their dead screens. They looked lost. They looked like people who had forgotten how to see without a lens. The script doctor was gone. The SUV was empty, its lights dark. I stood up, my head throbbed, and my body felt like it was made of lead. I walked past the crowd. No one followed me. No one filmed me. I was just a man walking in the rain. I found Mia blocks away, sitting on a curb. She was staring at her hands. "It's gone," she whispered. "The numbers, they're all zero." "I know," I said. I didn't offer her my hand. I didn't offer her a smile. I just kept walking. I didn't know where I was going. But for the first time in 6 months, I knew that no one, not a single soul in the world, knew where I was. And that was the most beautiful horror I had ever known.